What does it actually look like when a billion-dollar talent empire goes into a terminal tailspin? In Casey Wasserman's case, the real timeline, the deleted evidence, and the industry fallout all point to the same conclusion. This is not a PR wobble, it's a full-scale financial organ failure. In the span of a few weeks, an agency that helped control billions in contracts suddenly found its own name too toxic for some of its biggest clients to keep on their letterhead. The real timeline starts with Epstein file revelations, but the deleted evidence is the quiet removal of artist rosters from the website, and the industry fallout is a wave of exits that turns every lost client into a math problem. How much commission is bleeding out of this place every single day? According to multiple reports, Casey Wasserman isn't just apologizing, he's now preparing to sell off the very agency he built just to stop the hemorrhaging. Now, before we get into the timeline they're trying to scrub, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell. The mainstream media is currently being paid to bury this story, but I'm showing you the receipts they deleted and the context they're too scared to post. Don't let the PR spin win. Join the drip right now. So, let's start with the one number nobody in the glossy profiles wants to say out loud. Roughly $9.5 billion. That's the approximate value of the playing and endorsement contracts Wasserman's sports operation has been responsible for, translating into an estimated commission pile approaching $1 billion over the life of those deals. That alone puts the agency in the same league as the biggest players in sports and music representation, a machine designed to turn talent into fees and fees into power. But here's the twist. Those commission numbers are projections, not guarantees. They assume stability. They assume clients stay. They assume no reputational nuclear event makes staying with the agency more expensive, politically and morally, than walking away. Enter the Epstein files. According to multiple outlets, newly unsealed documents did something far more damaging than trend for a weekend. They printed Casey Wasserman's name next to Ghislaine Maxwell and made past correspondence feel radioactive in the present. In an industry built on optics, sponsorships, and brands pretending their ambassadors live on the right side of every headline, that was the match. The real timeline looks like this. Documents surface, social media starts circulating screenshots and summaries, then big-name clients and managers begin asking privately, "Can we stay here without catching shrapnel?" Within days, high-profile names from Olympic legends like Abby Wambach to rising music stars like Chappell Roan and artists celebrated in the indie and pop spaces either announce they're leaving or signal that they will if Wasserman himself doesn't step aside. Each one of those exits is not just a press release, it's years of future commission walking out the door. Think about it in raw math. If Wasserman's total contract book is around $9.5 billion and the theoretical maximum commissions are in the ballpark of $700 to $800 million over time, you don't need half the roster to revolt for this to hurt. You just need the visible cluster, the names who sell out arenas, anchor national teams, generate merch, drive streaming spikes, and attract Olympic-level brand deals. If even 5 to 10% of the agency's contract value concentrates in this headline class, then a dozen high-value exits can realistically represent tens of millions in now endangered fees. Divide that over multi-year deals, and you're looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost commission potential every single day that the uncertainty drags on. That's how a scandal becomes a cash flow crisis. Very quickly, the visible proof starts stacking up. Commenters noticed that artist rosters vanished or were scrubbed from official websites right as clients began publicly distancing themselves. Trade publications confirmed that multiple artists had already cut ties, and others were openly threatening to do the same unless Wasserman removed himself from power. Managers whispered to reporters that this wasn't just a moral stand, they were trying to avoid the Epstein splash landing on their own tours, sponsorships, and brand partners. That's the deleted evidence here. Not just the unsealed documents, but the digital erasure of who was repped where, because listing Wasserman publicly had become a liability. On one hand, you could frame this as a brutally efficient PR move by clients and their teams. They see a scandal brewing, they see a name connected to Epstein's inner circle, even by association, and they jump ship early to hijack the narrative. We're distancing ourselves. Our values are intact. That falls under textbook crisis PR. But on the other hand, look at how messy the timing is and how panicked the internal response is. Instead of a measured statement, a gradual leadership transition, and a controlled restructuring, we get leaks of internal memos, anonymous agents briefing the trades, and reports of factions within the agency arguing whether Wasserman should step down, sell, or ride it out. That level of chaos doesn't look like a clean stunt. It looks like a team trying to plug a dozen financial holes at once. Here's where the story stops making sense if you believe this is just optics. According to well-sourced reports, Wasserman didn't just offer to step aside, he actually decided to put the entire talent and marketing agency up for sale. This isn't a guy offloading a minor unit to calm investors. This is the founder initiating a full-scale divestment of one of the most powerful representation firms in sports and music. The sale reportedly includes major acquisitions he made in the last few years, like the music operation he scooped up in a previous fire sale, and Brillstein Entertainment Partners, a management powerhouse whose client list has included A-list film and television talent. That tells you two things. First, the business itself is big enough to fetch a serious price. And second, the reputational damage is serious enough that he's willing to surrender the crown jewel. Now, let's talk about the Epstein Tax. Is there a literal bill arriving in the mail with that label? No. But in practice, this is exactly what's being paid. Every brand manager who wants to avoid social media backlash, every artist who doesn't want their name trending next to Ghislaine Maxwell, every sponsor who fears a boycott, they all become part of an invisible surcharge on doing business with anything bearing the Wasserman name. That surcharge shows up as clients firing their longtime agents, managers pushing for exits, and executives muttering about whether Providence Equity, the private equity backer that took a big stake in the company, will tolerate the risks to their investment. If the agency was once worth mid to high nine figures on future earnings and strategic value, every new client departure shaves that valuation down. The Epstein tax is the gap between what this company could have sold for before the files and what it can realistically sell for now. There's a crucial power pivot happening behind the scenes. In public, you see headlines about clients calling for Wasserman to resign and about city officials fretting over his role as chair of the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics. That alone would be career-sized stakes for most executives. But inside the agency, the math is even colder. Private equity care about a few key numbers: revenue, margin, and reputational risk. If the music division alone accounts for a substantial chunk of revenue and suddenly turns into the eye of the storm with artists leaving and tours in flux, then the pressure mounts to ring-fence the damage. That's why you see speculation about spinning off or selling parts of the company, particularly the more volatile public-facing divisions, just to protect the core sports engine that still throws off predictable fees. Midway through this saga is the question nobody wants to answer publicly: how much commission is being lost per day as these exits stack up? We can run a conservative thought experiment. If the agency's total potential commission pool is in the neighborhood of $700 to $800 million over the life of existing contracts, and if even 5% of that is tied to the cluster of clients now leaving or threatening to leave, that's $35 to $40 million at risk. Spread over, say, 5 remaining years on various deals, you're looking at $7 to $8 million a year in commission that either evaporates or moves to rival agencies. Broken down further, that's roughly $20,000 a day in future commission being effectively erased from Wasserman's side of the ledger. If the damage creeps toward 10% of the commission pool, double those numbers. Suddenly, you're staring at $40,000 a day in theoretical fees migrating out of Team Was and into the hands of competitors. And remember, that's just one slice. There's also the knock-on effect. potential new signings who quietly choose another agency because they don't want their announcement buried under comments about Epstein. That's opportunity cost. You can't see it on a roster screenshot, but it lives in the balance sheet. Brands that might have leaned on Wasserman for marketing and sponsorship deals hesitate or renegotiate, trimming fees or routing business elsewhere. Multiply all of this by the uncertainty of a pending sale, and you get the perfect storm. Current commissions under threat, future commissions harder to secure, and the asset itself losing shine every week the scandal stays unresolved. This is where the clickbait title stops being clickbait and becomes receipts. Casey Wasserman going into fire sale mode isn't some dramatic metaphor. His agency genuinely appears to be in active sale negotiations. Reports detail memos to staff apologizing for being a distraction, confirming that divestment has already begun, and handing day-to-day operations to a president while he focuses on other projects, like making sure the LA 2028 games stay on track.